The lights of Ravenswood Castle sparkled like precious gems against the mysterious night of the English countryside. In the grand, historic hall, crystal chandeliers cast a brilliant glow over a gathering of the region's most prominent and powerful figures. Ethan Ravenswood, the sole heir of the Ravenswood family and the young CEO of the International Ravens Tech Corporation, stood in his opulent dressing room. His sharp, determined face was reflected in a large mirror. The sleek black tuxedo he wore only emphasized his commanding presence. Tonight, he would unveil an important project before the media and major investors. It was a strategic move that Ethan believed would elevate his family's name to new heights. For him, success was everything, and perfection was non-negotiable. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said, his deep voice calm yet distant. Emma, his wife, entered. She wore a pale blue dress, simple yet elegant. Her hair was neatly tied back, and her bare face highlighted her natural grace. However, her simplicity stood in stark contrast to the glamorous women who often accompanied Ethan. "Ethan," Emma said hesitantly, her shy eyes avoiding his. "I was thinking perhaps I could join you at the party tonight." Ethan turned to her, his cold gaze sweeping over her. After a few moments of silence, he sighed, rubbing his temples. "Emma, this party isn't the right place for you," he said, his tone weary. "It's filled with people you'd have nothing to talk about. It's best if you stay home." His words hit her like a blow to the chest. She understood what he meant. She wasn't dazzling enough, wasn't powerful enough to stand by his side. "I see," Emma replied, her voice trembling slightly. A faint, forced smile appeared on her lips, masking the pain creeping into her heart. Ethan stepped forward and placed a light kiss on her forehead before turning back to finish getting ready. His gaze held no warmth, only the usual indifference. Emma left the room, her vision blurring with unshed tears. She stood by her bedroom window, watching the luxurious cars pull up to the castle. The guests' laughter echoed faintly in the night. But tonight she decided things would change. Emma pulled out an old wooden box from the back of her closet. Inside was a striking red dress she had once worn to an important event they attended together. It had been a long time since she allowed herself to wear anything so bold. But tonight, she wouldn't be the timid woman Ethan dismissed. The dress hugged her figure perfectly, and a touch of light but sharp makeup transformed Emma into someone unrecognizable. When she looked in the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. "Tonight," she whispered, "I'll be myself." When Emma stepped into the grand hall, she was no longer the meek wife Ethan had always underestimated. She was a vision of strength, confidence, and enigmatic beauty. Every eye followed her as she walked by, whispers rising in her wake. She scanned the crowd for Ethan, and when their eyes met, time seemed to freeze. Ethan stood paralyzed, his eyes wide in disbelief at what he was seeing. That woman was Emma, but not the Emma he thought he knew. She simply smiled, gave him a small nod, and turned away, leaving him stunned. Ethan couldn't focus on anything else. The woman in the red dress haunted his thoughts. Finally, spotting her alone on the terrace, he approached. "Excuse me," he said hesitantly, a rare tone for him. "Have we met before?" Emma turned to him, her gaze alight with defiance. "Don't you recognize me, Ethan?" she asked, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. In that instant, realization hit him. His heart sank. "Emma," he stammered, disbelief thick in his voice. "Yes," she replied, her tone gentle but cutting. "It's me, the wife you've always deemed not good enough." Ethan stood frozen in place, a whirlwind of guilt and astonishment swirling within him. The image of Emma before him, strong, confident, and captivating, was a far cry from the woman he had neglected in his ambitious, fast-paced life. "Emma," he stammered, unable to find the words to express the emotions surging through him. She smiled, but it was a smile filled with pride and bitterness. "You didn't expect this, did you?" she said, her eyes gleaming with challenge. "The woman you always thought should stay behind the scenes. The one you deemed unworthy of standing beside you. That's me." Ethan tried to say something, but the words caught in his throat. Before he could respond, Emma turned away, her red dress sweeping lightly across the floor like a blazing flame. "Wait, Emma," he called out, his voice urgent. "Please don't go. We need to talk." Emma paused briefly, but didn't turn around. Her voice was soft yet resolute. "Talk? After everything? Do you really think it means anything now, Ethan? I waited for you for years, but you couldn't even look at me once." Ethan quickly stepped closer, his hand lightly touching her shoulder, but Emma turned to face him, her gaze cold and unwavering. "Don't try, Ethan," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion swirling within. "It's not that I'm running away. It's that I've found myself again. You were too busy with your world, leaving me lost in the shadows. But now, I don't need you to feel my worth." Ethan let out a heavy sigh, his eyes filled with regret. "Emma, I was wrong. I was so wrong. But don't say I have no chance left. Please, let me make things right." Emma studied him for a long moment, her gaze softening slightly, though her voice remained firm. "Make things right? Ethan, you've missed so many chances before. I don't know if you truly want to change, or if it's just guilt speaking for you." Her words pierced him, and he felt a sharp ache in his chest. He knew she was right. He had ignored her for so long, treating her as just another piece of his life that didn't need tending. "Emma," he said, his tone earnest, "I can't undo what's happened, but I can change what comes next. I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you." Emma let out a quiet, mirthless laugh. "You say you don't want to lose me, but Ethan, you lost me a long time ago. Now, you'll have to prove yourself. Not with words, but with actions. And I won't wait for you anymore." She walked away, leaving Ethan standing there in his regret and sorrow. In the weeks that followed, Ethan poured his energy into change. He scaled back unnecessary meetings, prioritized what truly mattered in life, and began writing letters to Emma, each one filled with heartfelt words of remorse and reflection. Emma read the letters but didn't reply. She was determined not to let words sway her again. One afternoon, Ethan appeared unannounced at her doorstep, holding a bouquet of white tulips, her favorite flowers. "Emma," he said, his eyes full of hope, "I'm not here to apologize again. I'm here to start over, if you'll let me." Emma looked at him, her heart tightening, but she didn't respond immediately. "Ethan, this won't be easy. I'm not sure if we can ever go back to how things were." "Then we won't go back," Ethan said, his voice firm. "We'll start a new chapter from here and now." Emma studied him for a long moment, her gaze filled with hesitation and emotion. His letters had touched her heart, but the pain of being overlooked for so long still lingered. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice laden with feeling, "I don't know if I can trust you again. You've changed a lot, but I can't risk being hurt again." Ethan nodded, his expression understanding. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," he said earnestly. "I just want a chance to prove I've changed, not with words, but with actions." Emma took a deep breath, her eyes lingering on the white tulips in his hand. It was a gesture she hadn't seen from him in years. A familiar warmth crept into her heart, but her mind urged caution. "All right," she said after a long silence. "But Ethan, this time, I won't forgive you easily if you disappoint me again." Ethan nodded firmly, as if grasping the lifeline he'd been waiting for. "I won't let you down, Emma," he said, his voice resolute. In the days that followed, Ethan dedicated himself to rebuilding Emma's trust. He was no longer the man too consumed by his ambitions to notice the little things. He showed up when she needed him, listened to her, and paid attention to the details he'd once overlooked. One afternoon, Ethan brought Emma an old photo album. "I found this in my office," he said, his voice slightly hesitant. "I thought you might want to see it." Emma opened the album and immediately recognized the photos of them from years ago. Trips they took together, quiet evenings at home, and simple yet cherished moments. As she turned each page, memories flooded back, mingling with a bittersweet sense of loss. "These years, I forgot what really mattered," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "These moments, these memories, I let them fade because I was too caught up in work and ambition. But now I realize none of it means anything without you." Emma looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Do you have any idea how much it hurt?" she whispered. "I thought I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't important to you." "I know," Ethan said, his voice breaking. I know, and it's the biggest mistake I've ever made. Please, let me fix this. One afternoon, Ethan invited Emma and their daughter, Clara, for a walk in the park. He patiently played with Clara, picked wildflowers with her, and sat by the pond feeding the ducks. From a distance, Emma watched, a warm feeling slowly spreading in her chest. Ethan wasn't just trying with her. He was trying with Clara, too, something she hadn't expected. When Clara ran up to her with a handful of wildflowers, Ethan smiled gently. "These are for Mommy, aren't they?" he asked. Clara giggled and nodded, placing the flowers in Emma's hands. "I love you, Mommy," the little girl said, her voice bright and innocent. Emma laughed softly, but as she looked up at Ethan, his eyes were filled with love and hope. "I'm not deciding right now," she said quietly, her tone still cautious. "But Ethan, I see you're trying, and it's making me think." Ethan took her hand, his gaze tender. "I'm not asking you to rush. I just want us to start over, one step at a time." Emma looked at him, sensing the sincerity in his words. "All right," she whispered. "But Ethan, this time, don't let me down." "I won't," he promised, his voice steady. In the months that followed, Ethan and Emma slowly rebuilt their relationship. Step by step, through meaningful actions, Ethan proved he had truly changed. While the old wounds couldn't be entirely erased, Emma began to feel hope for a new future. One evening, as they sat together under the warm glow of the living room lights, Ethan held Emma's hand, his eyes filled with love. "I know we can't go back to the way things were," he said, "but I hope we can create something even better." Emma smiled, a genuine smile she hadn't worn in years. "I hope so too," she said softly. And in the gentle light of the evening, they both knew their journey, though difficult, had rediscovered what mattered most: love and trust. As time passed, Ethan and Emma gradually rebuilt their lives together, step by step. They didn't return to the past, but instead wrote a new chapter, a story of forgiveness, trust, and unwavering love. Clara grew up in a home filled with warmth and affection, witnessing her parents continually strive for each other. One evening, under the glow of the setting sun, Ethan held Emma's hand as they watched Clara playing in the garden. He gently said, "We've come a long way, but I'll always be grateful that you gave me a second chance." Emma smiled, her eyes soft and warm. "We found each other again, Ethan, and that's what matters most." In that moment, they knew that no matter how challenging the road ahead might be, they were ready to face it together. This story is a beautiful reminder that love is not just a feeling. It's effort, sacrifice, and the determination to cherish what matters most. What do you think about Ethan and Emma's journey? Have you ever experienced something similar? Feel free to share your story with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more meaningful ones, don't forget to hit the like button to support us. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any new stories. Turn on notifications to be the first to watch our latest videos. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, suggestions, or personal stories in the comments so we can bring you even more relatable content. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.